Session 26 of the Law of One, February 17, 1981. Ra, I am Ra. I greet you in the love and the light of the infinite Creator. I communicate now. Questioner, is any of the changing that we have done here going to affect communication with the instrument in any way? Is what we've set up here all right? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner, do you mean that everything is satisfactory for continued communication? Ra, I am Ra. We meant that the changes affect this communication. Questioner, should we discontinue communication because of these changes, or should we continue? Ra, I am Ra. You may do as you wish. However, we would be unable to use this instrument at this space/time nexus without these modifications. Questioner, assuming that it is all right to continue, we're down to the last 3,000 years of this present cycle, and I was wondering if the Law of One in its written or spoken form has been made available within this last 3,000 years in any complete way such as we are doing now? Is it available in any other source? Ra, I am Ra. There is no possibility of a complete source of information of the Law of One in this density. However, certain of your writings passed on to you as your so-called holy works have portions of this law. Questioner, does the Bible that we know have portions of this law in it? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner, can you tell me if any of the Old Testament has any of the Law of One? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner, which has more of the Law of One in it? The Old Testament or the New Testament? Ra, I am Ra. Withdrawing from each of the collections of which you speak the portions having to do with the Law of One, the content is approximately equal. However, the so-called Old Testament has a larger amount of negatively influenced material, as you would call it. Questioner, can you tell me about what percentages of Orion influence in both the Old and New Testaments? Ra, I am Ra. We prefer that this be left to the discretion of those who seek the Law of One. We are not speaking in order to judge. Such statements would be construed by some of those who may read this material as judgmental. We can only suggest a careful reading and inward digestion of the contents. The understandings will become obvious. Questioner, thank you. Have you communicated with any of our population in the third density incarnate state in recent times? Ra, I am Ra. Please restate, specifying recent times and the pronoun, you. Questioner, has Ra communicated with any of our population in this century, in the last, say, 80 years? Ra, I am Ra. We have not. Questioner, has the Law of One been communicated in the last 80 years by any other source to an entity in our population? Ra, I am Ra. The ways of One have seldom been communicated, although there are rare instances in the previous 80 of your years, as you measure time. There have been many communications from fourth density due to the drawing towards the harvest to fourth density. These are the ways of universal love and understanding. The other teachings are reserved for those whose depth of understanding, if you will excuse this misnomer, recommend and attract such further communication. Questioner, then did the Confederation step up its program of helping planet Earth sometime late in this last major cycle? It seems that they did from previous data, especially with the Industrial Revolution. Can you tell me the attitudes and the reasonings behind this? Is there any reason other than they just wanted to produce more leisure time in the last, say, 100 years of the cycle? Is this the total reason? Ra, I am Ra. This is not the total reason. Approximately 200 of your years in the past, as you measure time, there began to be a significant amount of entities who by seniority were incarnating for learn/teaching purposes rather than for the lesser of the learn/teachings of those less aware of the process. This was our signal to enable communication to take place. The wanderers which came among you began to make themselves felt at approximately this time, firstly offering ideas or thoughts containing the distortion of free will. This was the prerequisite for further wanderers which had information of a more specific nature to offer. The thought must precede the action. Questioner: I was wondering if the one, Abraham Lincoln, could have been a wanderer? Ra: I am Ra. This is incorrect. This entity was a normal, shall we say, Earth being which chose to leave the vehicle and allow an entity to use it on a permanent basis. This is relatively rare compared to the phenomenon of wanderers. You would do better, considering the incarnations of wanderers such as the one known as Thomas, the one known as Benjamin. Questioner: I am assuming that you mean Thomas Edison and Benjamin Franklin? Ra: I am Ra. This is incorrect. We were intending to convey the sound vibration complex, Thomas Jefferson. The other, correct. Questioner: thank you. Can you tell me where the entity who used Abraham Lincoln's body, what density he came from and where? Ra: I am Ra. This entity was fourth vibration. Questioner: I assume positive? Ra: I am Ra. That is correct. Questioner: was his assassination in any way influenced by Orion or any other negative force? Ra: I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner: thank you. In the recent past of the last 30 to 40 years, the UFO phenomena have become known to our population. What was the original reason for the increase in what we call UFO activity in the past 40 years? Ra: I am Ra. Information which Confederation sources had offered to your entity, Albert Einstein, became perverted, and instruments of destruction began to be created, examples of this being the Manhattan Project and its product. Information offered through Wanderer, sound vibration, Nicola, also was experimented with for potential destruction, example, your so-called Philadelphia experiment. Thus, we felt a strong need to involve our thought forms in whatever way we of the Confederation could be of service in order to balance these distortions of information meant to aid your planetary sphere. Questioner: then what you did, I am assuming, is to create an air of mystery with the UFO phenomenon, as we call it, and then by telepathy send many messages which could be accepted or rejected under the law of one, so that the population would start thinking seriously about the consequences of what it was doing. Is this correct? Ra: I am Ra. This is partially correct. There are other services we may perform. Firstly, the integration of souls or spirits, if you will, in the event of use of these nuclear devices in your space/time continuum. This the Confederation has already done. Questioner: I don't fully understand what you mean by that. Could you expand on that a little bit? Ra: I am Ra. The use of intelligent energy transforming matter into energy is of such a nature among these weapons that the transition from space/time third density to time/space third density, or what you may call your heaven worlds, is interrupted in many cases. Therefore, we are offering ourselves as those who continue the integration of soul or spirit complex during transition from space/time to time/space. Questioner: could you give us an example from Hiroshima or Nagasaki of how this is done? Ra: I am Ra. Those who were destroyed, not by radiation, but by the trauma of the energy release, found not only the body/mind/spirit complex made unviable, but also a disarrangement of that unique vibratory complex you have called the spirit complex, which we understand as a mind/body/spirit complex, to be completely disarranged without possibility of reintegration. This would be the loss to the creator of part of the creator, and thus we were given permission, not to stop the events, but to ensure the survival of the, shall we say, disembodied mind/body/spirit complex. This we did in those events which you mention, losing no spirit or portion or holograph, a microcosm of the macrocosmic infinite one. Questioner: could you tell me just vaguely how you accomplished this? Ra: I am Ra. This is accomplished through our understanding of dimensional fields of energy. The higher or more dense energy field will control the less dense. Questioner: then you are saying that, in general, you will allow the population of this planet to have a nuclear war and many deaths from that war, but you will be able to create a condition where these deaths will be no more traumatic than entrance to what we call the heaven worlds or the astral world due to death by a bullet or by the normal means of dying by old age. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is incorrect. It would be more traumatic. However, the entity would remain an entity. Questioner: can you tell me the condition of the entities who were killed in Nagasaki and Hiroshima at this time? Ra, I am Ra. They of this trauma have not yet fully begun the healing process. They are being helped as much as is possible. Questioner: when the healing process is complete with these entities, will this experience of death due to nuclear bomb cause them to be regressed in their climb towards fourth density? Ra, I am Ra. Such actions as nuclear destruction affect the entire planet. There are no differences at this level of destruction, and the planet will need to be healed. Questioner: I was thinking specifically if an entity was in Hiroshima or Nagasaki at that time and he was reaching harvestability at the end of our cycle, would this death by nuclear bomb create such trauma that he would not be harvestable at the end of the cycle? Ra, I am Ra. This is incorrect. Once the healing has taken place, the harvest may go forth unimpeded. However, the entire planet will undergo healing for this action, no distinction being made betwixt victim and aggressor, this due to damage done to the planet. Questioner: can you describe the mechanism of the planetary healing? Ra, I am Ra. Healing is a process of acceptance, forgiveness, and, if possible, restitution. The restitution not being available in time/space, there are many among your peoples now attempting restitution while in the physical. Questioner: how do these people attempt this restitution in the physical? Ra, I am Ra. These attempt feelings of love towards the planetary sphere and comfort and healing of the scars and the imbalances of these actions. Questioner: then as the UFO phenomenon was made obvious to many of the population, many groups of people were reporting contact and telepathic contact with UFO entities and recorded the results of what they considered telepathic communication. Was the Confederation oriented to impressing telepathic communication on groups that were interested in UFOs? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct, although some of our members have removed themselves from the time/space using thought form projections into your space/time, and have chosen, from time to time, with permission of the Council, to appear in your skies without landing. Questioner: then are all of the landings that have occurred with the exception of the landing that occurred when, name, was contacted of the Orion group or similar groups? Ra, I am Ra. Except for isolated instances of those of, shall we say, no affiliation, this is correct. Questioner: is it necessary in each case of these landings for the entities involved to be calling the Orion group, or do some of these entities come in contact with the Orion group even though they are not calling that group? Ra, I am Ra. You must plumb the depths of fourth density negative understanding. This is difficult for you. Once having reached third density space/time continuum through your so-called windows, these crusaders may plunder as they will, the results completely a function of the polarity of the, shall we say, witness/subject or victim. This is due to the sincere belief of fourth density negative that to love self is to love all. Each other self which is thus either taught or enslaved thus has a teacher which teaches love of self. Exposed to this teaching, it is intended there be brought to fruition an harvest of fourth density negative or self-serving mind/body/spirit complexes. Questioner: then I am assuming all of the groups getting telepathic contact from the Confederation are high priority targets for the Orion Crusaders, and I would assume that a large percentage of them are having their messages polluted by the Orion group. Can you tell me what percentage of them had their information polluted by the Orion group, and if any of them were able to remain purely a Confederation channel? Ra, I am Ra. To give you this information would be to infringe upon the free will or confusion of some living. We can only ask each group to consider the relative effect of philosophy and your so-called specific information. It is not the specificity of the information which attracts negative influences. It is the importance placed upon it. This is why we iterate quite often, when asked for specific information, that it pales to insignificance, just as the grass withers and dies while the love and the light of the one infinite Creator redounds to the very infinite realms of creation forever and ever, creating and creating itself in perpetuity. Why then be concerned with the grass that blooms, withers and dies in its season only to grow once again due to the infinite love and light of the one Creator? This is the message we bring. Each entity is only superficially that which blooms and dies. In the deeper sense there is no end to beingness. Questioner: the instrument asks, how long will the debilitating effects that I am experiencing due to the LSD last, and is there anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable? Ra, I am Ra. Firstly, the period of weakness of bodily complex is approximately 3 of your lunar cycles. The first ingestion causing approximately 1 of your lunar cycles. The second having a cumulative or doubling effect. Questioner: as you have stated, it is a straight and narrow path. There are many distractions. We have created an introduction to the law of one, traveling through and hitting the high points of this 75,000-year cycle. After this introduction I would like to get directly to the main work, which is an investigation of evolution. I am very appreciative and feel a great honor and privilege to be doing this and hope that we can accomplish this next phase. Ra, I am Ra. I leave you, my friends, in the love and the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, then, merry and glad and rejoicing in the power and the peace of the one Creator. Adonai.